In 2015, Egypt did something extraordinary. In just 8 days, ordinary Egyptian citizens invested $8.5 billion. Not the government, not foreign investors, not the IMF. Ordinary people, teachers, taxi drivers, shopkeepers. They bought investment certificates from state banks for as little as 10 Egyptian pounds, about $1.30, to fund the most ambitious infrastructure project in Egypt's modern history, a brand new canal, parallel to the Suez. Designed to double capacity/waiting times and transform Egypt into the logistics center of the world, Egyptian officials promised revenues would more than double, from $5 billion to $13 billion annually by 2023. In 2023, Suez Canal revenues hit a record high of $10.25 billion. Egypt was on track. Then in 2024, revenues collapsed to $3.99 billion. The Egyptian people had invested their savings to fund a canal that the world had largely abandoned. This is the story of the $8.5 billion expansion that solved the wrong problem, at the worst possible moment in history. Please take a moment to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel. The Suez Canal is 193 kilometers long, connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. It is the only direct shipping route between Europe and Asia that doesn't require sailing around Africa, a detour that adds 7,000 kilometers and 2 weeks to every voyage. Approximately 12% of all global trade passes through it. Every container of electronics from China, every barrel of oil from the Gulf, every shipment of grain from Ukraine. A significant portion of all of it transits the Suez Canal. For Egypt, the canal is not just infrastructure, it is the economy. Suez Canal revenues represent roughly 10% of Egypt's entire foreign currency earnings. More important than tourism, more reliable than oil. But in 2014, Egypt had a problem. The original canal was 1 lane wide for most of its length. Ships traveled in convoys, one direction at a time, and waited up to 18 hours to transit. As global trade grew, the canal was becoming a bottleneck. Egypt feared shipping companies would choose alternative routes. So Egypt built a second canal. The new Suez Canal, opened on August 6, 2015, added 72 kilometers of new channel running parallel to the original, 35 kilometers of entirely new excavation through the desert, another 37 kilometers of widening and deepening the existing waterway, 250 million cubic meters of material dredged, comparable to the original Panama Canal expansion. The expansion reduced transit time from 18 hours to 11 hours and increased daily capacity from 49 to 97 ships. The Egyptian government promised the expansion would make Suez the route of choice for every shipping company on Earth. But even before the canal opened, analysts were asking uncomfortable questions. The shipping industry's real problem was not speed, it was size. While Egypt was digging a second lane, shipyards were building vessels so enormous they had outgrown the canal entirely. The canal even has a ship class named after it, Suezmax. These are the largest vessels that can just barely fit through fully loaded. But ultra-large container vessels exceed even Suezmax dimensions. They cannot use the Suez Canal at full capacity. They either partially offload cargo to lighten their draft, or skip the canal entirely. Egypt wasn't just solving the wrong problem, they were widening a 2-lane highway while the shipping industry built 18-wheelers too heavy for the bridge. The ships could still squeeze through, but only if they showed up half-empty. But there was a second reason Egypt built this canal, one that had nothing to do with shipping lanes. President Sisi used the new Suez Canal as a symbol of national renewal. Egypt had been through years of political turmoil. The Arab Spring, the revolution, the counter-revolution. The country needed a project that said, Egypt is back. Egypt can build the impossible. The Egyptian public wasn't just funding a canal. They were buying into a vision of their country's future. Teachers and taxi drivers investing $1.30 certificates weren't making a financial calculation. They were making a patriotic one. That made the collapse of 2024 not just an economic crisis. It was a national humiliation. In 1956, Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal and sank dozens of ships to block the British and French. It took 8 years to clear the wreckage. Egypt fought for decades to control this waterway. In 2024, Egypt didn't need to sink a single ship to lose control. The world simply stopped coming, and Egypt could do nothing to stop it. On October 7, 2023, Hamas attacked Israel. What followed changed the Suez Canal forever. Yemen's Houthi movement, backed by Iran, began attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea. Between November 2023 and January 2024 alone, Houthis targeted over 100 merchant vessels with missiles and drones, sinking 2 ships and killing 4 sailors. The message was clear: the Red Sea was no longer safe. Shipping companies had a choice: risk missile attacks or sail around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, adding 7,000 kilometers and 2 weeks to every voyage. One by one, the world's largest shipping lines chose Africa. Only 13,213 ships passed through the canal in 2024, a 50% decline from over 26,000 in 2023. In 2025, recovery began after a ceasefire in Gaza. But as of early 2026, traffic remains 60% below pre-crisis levels. January 2026 recorded the weakest container ship traffic of any January in the past decade. For the thousands of Suez Canal pilots, men who once earned lucrative bonuses in US dollars, it meant empty schedules, slashed wages, and families struggling in Port Said. The ships have not come back. Revenue fell from $10.25 billion in 2023 to just $3.99 billion in 2024, a collapse of more than 60%. Egypt lost nearly $7 billion, more than the entire cost of the expansion, in 12 months. The expansion that was supposed to make Egypt indispensable had made its vulnerability clearer than ever. A single conflict 2,000 kilometers away in Yemen had effectively closed the canal without touching it. But here is the part that makes this story genuinely disturbing. The Houthi crisis exposed something that was already true before the first missile was fired. The Suez Canal's dominance was never guaranteed. It was assumed. The canal has always depended on the Red Sea being safe. Ships enter through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow choke point between Yemen and Djibouti. If that strait is dangerous, the canal is useless regardless of how wide or fast it is. Egypt spent $8.5 billion making the canal faster. It spent nothing making the approach safer, because that was never Egypt's problem to solve. The Red Sea is international waters. Egypt has no navy capable of protecting it. The United States and its allies attempted Operation Prosperity Guardian in late 2023, a naval mission to escort ships through the Red Sea. It failed. While Egypt waited, shipping companies quietly built new relationships with alternative routes. The Cape of Good Hope, once the option of last resort, became routine. Port operators in South Africa, Oman, and Singapore expanded capacity. Supply chains restructured. Even after the Gaza ceasefire of October 2025, the ships did not simply return. Maersk, CMA CGM, and MSC began cautiously testing Suez routes. But testing is not committing. Rerouting 200 vessels permanently is like turning an aircraft carrier in a bathtub. It takes years, and only happens if the captain is absolutely certain the iceberg is gone. Industry analysts confirmed that despite 3 months without Houthi attacks, transits remained 60% below pre-crisis levels. The reason was not just security, it was habit, it was familiarity. Supply chains had restructured around the Cape, and restructuring back carried its own risks. Every month ships stay away. The alternative routes become more familiar, more efficient, and harder to abandon. In March 2025, modest signs of recovery emerged. By early 2026, revenue was growing, up 18.5% year-on-year. Egypt's officials called it resilience, But the Suez Canal Authority is now offering discounts of up to 75% on transit fees just to lure ships back. Here is the reality Egypt's government won't say aloud. It takes 3 to 5 years for a shipping company to fully reroute its global logistics network. If the Red Sea isn't reliably safe through 2026, the Cape of Good Hope won't be an alternative anymore. It will be the new standard. Egypt doesn't just risk losing $7 billion a year. It risks losing an entire century of maritime dominance, not to a war, but to a slow, permanent rerouting of the global map. But the $8.5 billion wasn't just concrete and dredged sand. It was the life savings of teachers who believed in their country. It was the pride of taxi drivers who wanted to tell their grandchildren, "I helped build that." The Egyptian people didn't invest in a canal. They invested in a monopoly. And monopolies only exist until the world finds a way around them. Whether that happens depends on a war in Gaza that Egypt cannot end, and a strait in Yemen it cannot protect. The new Suez Canal is still there. The second lane is open. The waiting times are gone. The ships are just not coming.